Yeah. So to kick things off, I do start with the same boring ass question every time. Simple introduction, guys. Who are you, and just a little background on yourselves.
So, hey, I'm Jeff, and this is Simon, and we're from Defocus. We are from Germany, near Stuttgart. We're sitting outside of our rehearsal room. We just played a few new songs, and we got a new album coming up next week already.
Okay, on
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? Like, talk about that process, right? Because I think a lot of fans maybe don't understand the kind of the anticipation and the anxiety that builds leading into an album, and then like the relief of like, okay, it's here, we're good, everything's fine.
Oh hell, there's so much to talk about actually. Like, just realized it's next Friday that we're gonna release that album, and there's been so much of work and yeah, worries and everything that we had with the whole process of this album. Like, you're working on stuff and you're not even like you're working so hard on that music that you can't even realize like whether it's good or not yourself. You can't decide that anymore. It's like it's called the band curse, I guess. And so therefore I'm just so excited for everybody else to be able to listen to that album and to give some feedback on it, because you yourself, you're just not able to do that, right? So
Yeah.
therefore I just can't wait for Friday to the album being released completely. And yeah, it feels like a relief, as you just said.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about signing with a rising empire, right? Like, when you talk about labels, especially in this heavier music scene, a rising's damn near the top label to be on right now. What was it like going into those conversations, and kind of, from everyone that I've talked to on that label, the amount of just love and creativity that they allow you guys to have? They don't, try to filter your music or anything like that. What's it like working with a team that's just so invested in you guys as a band?
I mean, it feels good. We've known the guys behind the Rising Empire for years before they even started like the label, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're actually locals from here as well, and they are still playing in bands as well. And yeah, we've played shows like in front of 10 people a few years ago, and just seeing like them like putting up all this record and record label and signing all those cool bands, and then we were like, oh hell yeah, man, when we do our shit seriously and we do like take everything seriously with our music, we got to talk to them. And and it kind of worked out that way, right? We worked
Right.
on our first record. We released a few, I think one or two songs before we even planned to write the first record. And
then
we've
COVID
just
came.
COVID came, yeah. And we've just sent out our songs, our demos to them, and they were like, hell yeah, let's do this. And it felt so great like doing that, because like I said, it's like you said, it's COVID and we couldn't play any shows, right? It's the same thing with the feedback right now. We didn't get any feedback, just like online, and it's not the same. But like getting this feedback from someone that's been around the scene and can be honest to you as well was like just it was a good feeling. And we're great they're still having us, even though we're sometimes fuck up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the thing, right? You cook your stuff for yourself and you just never know how it tastes to other people, because you just can't like say, okay, I like that song, that's gonna be a banger or whatever. You need some other people to actually being able to listen to it and to just give you whatever advice or just some feedback, and that's it. And that's what I really appreciated about A Rising Empire, therefore, because they just like they made us be in contact with our music ourselves, because you're always like a little bit more, you're how you say that, like you're the worst critic yourself.
Yeah, you're your own worst critic. Yeah.
Yeah. We care so much about little details and stuff like that. It's crazy.
And that's exactly what I was going to go down, is like you end up nitpicking, right? And it's like, oh no, we have to tweak this riff, we have to do this bass drop, like, and at some point you need somebody to sit in and just be like, guys, it's fucking fine, like chill out, it'll be good. So
I mean, we've talked about it like a few days ago. It's so good that they have actually deadlines.
Oh yeah,
because if we didn't have any deadlines, we would still be working on all those songs. And we can just go crazy. On the first record, we really,
we took our time for everything.
We took our time for everything, and
because we just had the time, right?
And we had time, of course, but I think sometimes just like going with the flow and committing to your ideas is pretty good as well. And you know, for us, it was actually a pretty good help that they have a deadline.
Yeah, to just stop procrastinating and just make something set, and something is okay. Now this song is done; it has to be done, and we're good. And we got just the limited amount of time left for that song. Like for example, like for the first album, everybody was just at home. Nobody was working at all because it was not possible, right? And so like therefore we had plenty of time each day to just sit in front of the computer and chat and work on the songs and tweak that thing and tweak that thing. But now it was like, okay, you really had to plan when you're gonna work on the songs because everybody was working full time now. And we did not find that much time as for the first album, obviously. And that's what made it a lot more efficient, I would say. But yeah, at least you'll have to decide for things and just being okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk a little bit about, you guys have released obviously a few songs off this album already and getting really good traction on them. Specifically, you know, Crooked Mind just dropped a few days ago as we sit here and talk. And already it seems like the fans, but not even, maybe more so the people that hadn't heard the band yet, are latching on, being like, holy shit, what is this? Like, how cool is this thing? What's it like for you guys seeing the fan base like kind of start to explode a little bit and grow massive?
It felt so, I mean, it just felt,
I mean, for me personally, it's very surreal. For me, it's just
completely
at
surreal,
this
man.
point, it's just numbers for me until we start like playing shows and seeing like everyone's reaction in real life.
Right.
It's when, you know, for me, it kicks in. But right now, it's so surreal. Like I can, you know,
can't even describe the feeling. Like as you just said, like Crooked Mind, for example, I don't know, it's around over 400,000 streams, I guess, and I'm just like, whoa, what the hell? Okay, I mean, we already have like Disease having a similar amount of streams, I guess, but it was like a whole different thing with that song because it took a longer time, and Crooked Mind just went up that fast. And as Jeff just said, like we really wait for the feedback live because it's just numbers in the internet. It's so like you cannot take that into the context of the music. Like it just doesn't feel like that, right? If you got that many people standing in front of you, for example, it makes a whole different feeling than just some random number in the internet. So
yeah.
But I mean, it feels super good, you know, that it's that the song is getting traction. Like when we just, you know, we just had fun when we wrote it, right? We wanted to make something that was like energetic and fast paced, and then, you know, we thought about, okay, how can we end this song, right? And you know, we were just like kids, right? We were like thinking, okay, what's the most insane thing we can do? And we wrote that shit in one night, and we were like, holy hell, man, what is that? And we were like all smiling and, you know, and writing it. And it's good that I think people are like having the same reaction.
At that moment, I really have to confess, I'm so thankful for you guys to like bringing up that idea, because mine was so fucking boring. I just wanted to read the chorus in a different way, like a little like slower with some breakdown motion thing. But I never thought of something as the way it is right now. I'm just super like grateful for that idea because I just love it.
Yeah.
We just rehearsed that song like half an hour before, and I was just again like going crazy just because of that part, because it feels so good to actually perform it. I mean, I'm not doing anything than just making noises at that moment, but it feels like there's so much power and it is so energetic at the same time. And I'm just waiting for that song to being played live for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the cool thing with you guys is you're this really cool like hybrid fusion of a bunch of different genres, right? So it opens the door for all that sort of shit. You've got like, there's some part like post-hardcore stuff. There's obviously the metal and metalcore. There's a little bit of like EDM type shit coming in. And it's like, it just opens the door to be like, hey, it doesn't matter if traditionally this should be in a 4/4. just straight through, or if we decide fuck it, we're going to do basically a second breakdown and just have a party at the end of this song.
You know, I mean, that's the thing that I really hate about talking about music. If you put something into genres, I mean, it's obviously useful for like explaining something, but for
Yeah.
me, like music today is not like I'm not able to put any band into any genre because, as you just mentioned, like there is so much going on, so much of the music is like connected,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that's what I just love about making it fluid, you know. If
Yeah.
we are a metal band, then call us a metal band, but at the same time, as you just said, we got so many different influences that actually make our music the way that it is. And that's what I love about music in 2024, that there are no limits, no borders. And I guess we're gonna exaggerate that in the future. I guess that's what I feel like.
Yeah. I say the same thing all the time. Like, I fucking hate genre labels because nobody fits in the box anymore. And like you said, like, sure, I could just be like, oh, have you checked out Defocus? They're a metal band. But then when you start listening to them, you're like, okay, but they're not just a metal band, man. Like, there's so much more. And I feel like those genre labels, well, obviously they have a purpose for like marketing and stuff like that, but like it almost potentially alienates a part of the fan base that may be able to jump in because it's like maybe, you know, maybe they're a super post hardcore fan, but oh, I don't listen to metal. Okay, but now you're missing out because we have those elements.
Yeah, yeah, sure, totally.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's what always makes the people like being separated from each other. I always think of that when we're on playing on a metal festival, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is this old school metal, and then there is this new kind of metal. If you think in those two ways, and you often get that feeling that there are some people that just don't want that new influence of metal being on those festivals at all. They just like sit there and drink their beer and wait for their band to enter the stage. And I'm just like, well, I mean, this is music, that's music, and it's so similar at one point. Like, how do you even differ between those two bands, for example? Like,
Right.
they're just making different things, obviously, but why should you say, okay, this is not metal and this is metal? What the hell?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it goes to, you know, thinking about like Hellfest and some of those. It's like, okay, cool. We've got Pantera, Slayer, Metallica playing these shows, and like there's your classic metal. But then you have fucking Bring Me the Horizon, who fits in no box whatsoever, coming out playing songs with fucking baby metal. You're like, time
Yeah.
out. What the fuck is
Oh,
happening
Lil
here?
Uzi. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. Lil Uzi's out, you know, and it's like, I think it's cool because, like you said, there's certain people that sure they just want, give me classic Slayer. I'm just gonna
Yeah, yeah.
chill, do whatever. But I think the fan bases now, especially post COVID, um, are a lot more receptive to, hey, that was dope. I don't give a shit like what you want to call it. It was dope that you had the 808 drums in there and that you did this breakdown.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I love about music in 2024. As I just said, I'm
Yeah.
just so excited for everything that will come, because you don't feel like there are any borders that people make for you that make it hard for you to evolve and to develop your own sound. Like, nobody cares in the end. If you,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, for example, Bring Me the Horizon, right? So they made a huge switch from where they started and where they are now. And there are so many people that actually hate them for what they do now. But
Right.
I'm just like, okay, but look, there are so many other people that love what they are doing right now. So why should you care about that, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like what you want to do and what you want to bring into the scene. And this is what I really love about making music now.
But I think it opens the door too for like when it comes to not necessarily, well, the festivals too, I guess, but like you have no control over who's on the festival. But like
Obviously.
when you guys are getting ready to go out on tour, right now it's, well, we can bring any of our friends that we want. We don't have to play the same style music
Yeah.
because the doors are open.
I mean, one thing that I saw recently was, I don't get this to see that much here in Europe or in Germany, but you guys over the States, you had like a tour with I don't know. I think it was Suicide Boys and Knocked Loose at the same time.
Yeah.
Like this genre mix. I mean, if they would do a tour like this here in Germany, I would go crazy, man. That's like, you know, also helping to bring those two audiences together because they're not that different.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a prime example, you know, like obviously the stereotypical American, right? Like we have the best stuff, but I think we do when it comes to
Except the
tours,
beer.
like you said, right. But I think you're right. Like when it comes to tours and stuff, we tend to not care as much about like, oh, that's the same genre or not the same genre. Whereas then when a lot of artists go overseas to the UK or Australia or wherever, it's like, well, hold on, we have to narrow this down. It all has to be the same sound because they
Yeah,
don't get it. And it's like, I
Yeah.
don't think they give enough credit to the fan bases that they'll get it when you give them the opportunity.
yeah, yeah.
Well, they could also be a part, yeah. I mean, I just remember that Jeff is really like he's always the guy that goes to a concert and afterwards he tells me like, dude, that show was so great, but Germany wasn't ready for that yet. Like he's always coming back and he was like, dude, there were so like there could have been so many people. The show was
Yeah.
amazing, no matter which artist that was, but he's always like, Germany's not ready for that yet. And I'm always like, oh man, okay, is that different from the States, for example? Like, is
Yeah.
it that different to be touring in the States and like having that super big variety of artists that being
Yeah.
sharing the stage on one evening, for example?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, the advantage in the US because of how big it is, you know, we've got like, especially your major markets, Chicago, New York, LA, things like that. There's so many shows going on every single night that people have wide open opportunity. Whereas I think overseas, obviously, you guys don't, you still have a thriving music scene, don't get me wrong, but like it's not as diverse necessarily. Where,
Yeah.
you know, I'm close to Chicago. On any given night, you could go to one bar and it'd be a pop punk show. The next bar down the road, you know, 3 doors down is this heavy metal show, deathcore, whatever. And it's like, you don't get that, I feel like, in a lot of overseas opportunity.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's the same kind of for us in Germany. Like, of course, you have a few local scenes over here, but I personally think it's just like also only like this in the major cities, right? It's like in Berlin
Yeah.
or Munich or Cologne, I think are like the best examples where
Yeah.
they do have like shows and bands and artists playing every night. But yeah, if you go outside that area just a little bit, it's not so much going on.
Yeah, then it really depends on the club where you're actually playing, right? So we also came to some clubs or whatever where you realize that all the people that are there today are there because they always are and they love the venue and they're just there because they love the music itself, right? And sometimes it's kind of hard if you go to the periphery of any like bigger cities or even further. Like you sometimes have a hard time to gathering up people for that, and it's a lot easier to actually play shows in bigger cities where you have a lot more people there.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but it feels like from conversations that I've had, the overseas markets, a lot of times you run into the issue of like certain venues are so used to playing certain types of shows that like when it does mix up, the crowd just doesn't show up because it's not what they expect.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but to be honest, like we've been on tour last year and we played a show in Bern in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
And it is usually a jazz club, so they only play jazz in there. And it was full house, and I'm not sure how many people there were, but it was like way more people that even fit into that small venue. It's not made for metal, right? So the rooms are quite small and everything, and there's a small stage, and it's super cozy in there. But it was the first ever metal show in there, and it just felt like, yo, it's so crazy. There were so many people in there. Actually, I was super surprised about that. And yeah, sometimes you get surprises like this.
Yeah. Well, for you guys, what do you see going on in the music scene in Germany, Switzerland, you know, France, things like that, where this, you know, especially in the metal scene, right? Like you guys are not what's considered the traditional music for these types of countries. You know, a lot of people, they think Switzerland and they think of a lot of the EDM artists that have come from there. You know, France, you've got kind of the weird mix of stuff, but like I think people still assume that they're very traditional and classical a lot of times. What's
Mhm.
it like for you guys seeing kind of this metamorphosis, if you will, of the music scene where it's finally starting to bloom and let people experience more?
Well, to be honest, it feels like, at least for me, it feels like through the internet where you actually get to know new bands. In the first place, it doesn't really matter from where they are. So you sometimes you listen to some bands, and then you after few weeks you just realize, oh my God, they are just from Germany. At the first thing I didn't hear that, and the second thing is like,
Oh yeah.
why didn't I know them before? And that's a weird thing about that. And I guess for the music that actually comes from Germany, I'm super grateful for the label as well, because I got to know so many different amazing artists from our own label, which I like probably would have known in the exact same way, right? So I just listen to them because I hear the song in Spotify or whatever, and then I'm just like, what? They are just 1 hour away from Stuttgart where we live. So what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. The music scene got a lot more anonymous for me. It feels like you just listen to the music and don't even know the artist anymore. And
Yeah.
so that's why it's probably hard to tell for me.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense to me too. Like I think,
Hmm.
you know, growing up, I'm 38 years old. I remember growing up, you know, like it was not uncommon for people to talk about bands and know every single member's name, kind
Yeah,
of, you
that's
know,
the
their
thing.
background. You don't really have that anymore. People like
No,
know the band,
you
they
barely know
might
the
know the
name.
lead singer, but that's, yeah, that's about it. And it's, I think it's a weird thing because like it is because of streaming and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's kind of counterintuitive because like the internet exists, right? You have all that information at your fingertips. You should be able to know
True.
who these
Yeah.
people are.
That's actually funny because I talked to my sister about that a few weeks ago, and she was just like, because when we were kids, we loved to listen to Billy Talent together
Mm-hmm.
because she had the Billy Talent 2 album,
Mhm.
and she was just like, hell, I know the name of every member of that band, I know every word of the whole lyrics because I just sat there with the booklet of that album and just read through
Yeah.
everything. And now you're just like, okay, well, I know 15 seconds of that song because of the Instagram, TikTok, or whatsoever. And
Yeah.
you're just like, okay, it somehow feels like the masses that you actually have of music that like come together in the internet is so big that you're not able to worship all of the whole band, the whole experience that you got with an album or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just changed. And as you just said, like there are a lot more information about any artist in the internet now than back in 2005 or whatever,
Right.
but you don't care about that anymore, right? Or it
Yeah.
seems to be like nobody's caring anymore.
Yeah. I think unless you're a like diehard hardcore fan of that
Yeah.
band, people are
Mm.
just like, okay, I know who you're talking about. And then they move on. Like it's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. Oh, they had that cool breakdown at the end, right?
Right. Well, or like, you know, especially you mentioned knock loose earlier, right? Like everybody knows the knocked loose motherfucker line because it blew up on TikTok.
Yeah.
Arf,
Yeah.
arf.
Nobody could tell you the rest of that song though. Like unless
Yeah.
they're fans of knocked loose. And it's just it's
Yeah.
crazy to me because like we're in this weird space where, you know, like you said, 15 seconds is typically what people are paying attention to. So now it's how do I take this passion project, this album, this song, whichever, and find 15 to 30 seconds that I can put out there and hopefully get people to be like, I want to learn more about this band.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it like gets harder, I think, for artists to like get your name out there, because like you said, the attention span, you know, is like pretty low at this point, and you need to have this like wow moment, I think, right? To like, you know, get a reaction of someone, and then they'll maybe think, okay, this sounds cool, this grabbed my attention, and maybe I'll check out more of it. But you know, that's also a thing that you have to like promote everything in this format, right?
Yeah.
In like Instagram Reels or TikToks, and that's the most efficient way of like spreading your music. But at the same time, I mean, we as artists, we like we said a few days ago, we really care about things like a track list, you know, which order do the tracks come, and what
Yep.
feeling do they have, right? And we want to listen to it from start to finish. But at the same time, um, people don't really do that anymore,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm one of those people. Anytime I recommend a new album to friends, I tell them, like, the first 3 times you listen to that album, it has to be front to back. Like,
Mm.
the artists have put them in that order for a reason, but also, like, for me, it's that first playthrough is kind of, that surface level. You're just feeling it out. The second one, you're paying a little bit more attention. What's grabbing me? Where's the hooks in this thing? And then the third is like, okay, I can invest in, like, I want to hear what he's saying. I want to listen to the lyrics. I want to know what this is about. And I think it's important too, as you guys are getting ready to drop the new album, that's a big, you know, pressure point, I guess, is what I'll say, like, that I want to drive home for people is, you've already heard the singles. The singles come out for the reasons that they come out. Now give the album a chance to live. Don't just stick to the singles.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I would say like 3 times from front to back is perfect. But at the same time, you already know after the first time listening to the album, you exactly know whether the artist made it like something, like whether there is a structure in there or
Right.
not. And then you can say, okay, if it's that kind of album, then I'm gonna do that. And otherwise, I can just pick the songs that I like the first. And I guess that's what differs like from the way you listen to albums nowadays than before. Like you really decide, okay, is it an album that intends to be listened to that like that way from front to back, or if it's like sometimes I listen to an album and I'm like, okay, there are some standout songs and the rest is like kind of, it sometimes feels like they are just made to be
Like filler tracks.
yeah, as a filler
Yeah.
track. It's a word I would never use for any song that we ever create, but it's like there are actually people that use the word filler track and they just like, yeah, we got 4 singles and that's fine, but we want to get on 10 songs on the album or whatever. And so the rest are filler tracks. Now, what the fuck? Why you even do that? Like,
Right.
why do you even pay for some mix and master or production for a song if you don't even stand behind it? Right.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
feels wrong.
it would be different if it was like, we're aiming for 10 songs, we have 8. Sure, you could throw 2 filler tracks in, or maybe some sort of interlude or whatever to bridge them together. But I think it's interesting. You mentioned, like, sometimes you can tell if there's not really a structure to the album, and it is just like, hey, we had 12 songs, we threw them together, here you go. It's interesting because there are times I can remember throughout my life where, like, you listen to an album and you're like, why is it in this order? Like, why wouldn't track 4 be here instead? Like, so then back in the day of, we both all remember, like, mixing our own CDs, right? I can remember taking albums from artists and just putting them in the order that I thought they should have flowed in. And that was what was in my car.
Okay, at that point, I'd be interested if you listen to the whole album, if you would have any changes to suggest for us, because
I don't think I do yet. I've only gotten to listen to it twice fully through, so I'll do that for you though. I will listen to it again and see if I should mix any of the songs.
Because we had a couple of discussions about certain parts in the track list. So I would be really interested if you exactly match what we've been discussing about.
I will definitely do that for you guys. I'll take it a full, give it its life, and I'll see what I think on that.
Thank you.
for fans that are getting ready to check out this album, it's an evolution of the sound, right? Like you're not changing who you are or anything. It's just broadening this soundscape that you've already created. What do you think, or what are you hopeful that fans are going to recognize in this album as far as the growth goes?
In the first place, the variety, I guess. That they worship the variety that we put into this album. Like we just talked about that in the rehearsal today. Like there are so many different influences that each of us has in when it comes to music, and so we try to like not say, okay, we want to do something different than anything else. It was just like we try to combine everything that we actually are listening to, like when we're at home or at work, doesn't matter. And we just try to get everything together into one album. Like I wanted to have some crunch and some new metal influences. Jeff loves hip hop, and so we can talk about so many different aspects of that in that album. And if anybody that listens to that album just yeah, realizes this kind of variety or even appreciates it, that would be already like everything that I can ask for.
Yeah. What do you think about the lyrical difference that you're writing in now? Like, how do you feel like your words or your messages have changed from album one into this album?
Okay, I mean, like the first thing that I can think of in with the question is because like this album is truly just about, like for me at least, it's just about my emotions that I experienced within the last month or even years. And on the first album, there were even more lyrics that are criticizing this like the the way that people are living together, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
now it feels like it's more an egoistic thing for me because I have to like think about all the things that I worry about, and that's the first reason for why I choose to make like emotional and personal topics. But at the same time, it felt like I'm not alone with those things that I'm thinking of, right? So there are actually so many people that struggle with life, with society, and everything that's connected to this issue. Especially nowadays, where every day you hear any news and everything can change within a second,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore that's the first thing that really changed. But as a second thing, I have to confess that I tended to write very, like, probably not for you, but for me, like some complicated lyrics in on the first album, and I really tried to make it a lot easier to understand and easier to dial in, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
people can relate to that a lot better than okay, what did he just say? I mean, it was clean vocals, but I can't understand it anyways because it was so, you know. And
Yeah.
therefore, I was just trying to make it a lot more easy and more like understandable for everybody. And those are definitely two things that I intentionally made put into that record.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think, that's something I kind of picked up on, is that this one feels a lot more singular point of view, in the sense of like, this is from my perspective, versus that first album, like you said, is kind of more of a like a global feeling of, hey, these are the fucked up things in society. Now this album is a little more of, this is what I'm dealing with and how I'm dealing with it. Um, Talk a little bit about, because Crooked Mind obviously touches on the mental health side of things, right? And the fucked up voices that we all have in our own heads. What does mental health look like in Germany as far as access to care and just the society's perspective of it?
I mean, I recently talked about that topic with my girlfriend actually,
Oh.
because my perception is that in the States it's a lot more common for people to go like therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like finding someone that can like like go to a therapy, right? In Germany there are not many people that offer that, right? And it's very hard to get like a place at a therapy, right? If you call someone, they say, oh no, we've got so many people, we can't take you anymore. We have another one that you can try and call, but it's not guaranteed, right? And like
Yeah.
especially when you're like from a smaller area, it's even harder to find someone. And
Oh, you got depressions? We can offer you an appointment in 6 months.
yeah, we
Yeah.
can offer something in 6 months, and you have to go to this big city which is like 3 hours away, and we can arrange something, right? So for me personally, it's like it's really hard to find some places that offer these kind of services, but there should definitely be more. Like I think there's really a demand for that, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be like, you know, something weird to go to therapy, right? I think
Right.
almost
I guess,
everyone can benefit from that.
yeah, I guess that's the issue, because like it really feels like to me that nowadays people are more open already to be actually talking about those issues, right? So it was always okay, like, okay, I broke my leg, everybody's talking to me about my leg, but if my soul is broken, nobody wants to know anything about me because
Yeah.
like I'm scary to them or whatever. And so those topics got more into the society within the last years. That's what, at least what I perceive.
Yeah.
But it feels like there is no infrastructure for that yet. So many people try to open themselves up for that, but there is no infrastructure for them to actually receiving help if they need some.
Yeah.
So like I guess that's a big part, and I can't compare it to any other place than to Germany, obviously, but at least I'm very thankful for the society to be evolving that in that certain way, because it feels like it's just needed and it's so necessary, because everybody's struggling with anything. Like everybody's
Yeah.
got problems, and you cannot even compare those, right? Because you'll
I,
never know what he's feeling like, and he will never know exactly what I'm feeling like. So because he's not me and I'm not him, and that's what some people don't understand. They're just like, oh, he's got some mental illnesses. I don't know how to talk to that person right now. Dude, you got your problems yourself. Just care about you and try to understand what others tell you.
yeah.
And that's what I really appreciate, that it gets introduced a lot more into society today.
Yeah, and there's a thing that I've been trying to do myself where me and this artist talked a little over a year ago, I guess now. But you mentioned the broken leg, and so we've been trying to kind of change the way that we talk about mental health with, instead of mental illness, it's a mental injury, because an injury is something people can see and understand that there's a broken piece, but an illness is like, okay, I'm not a doctor, I can't help you. But if they understand that, no, I've just got this mental injury, whether it's PTSD or depression or whatever, it's like, okay, what can I do to maybe, quote unquote, carry the groceries for you, right? Like if you saw somebody with a broken leg or a broken arm, hey, let me get the groceries for you, I'll carry those in. Like same thing with depression. Sometimes it's just as simple as, hey, what do you like? Do we need to go watch a movie? Do we need to just get out and take a walk? Like, what can I do to help you?
Mhm. Yeah, I really like that, what you just said. Like it feels like those are two different things, but you cannot separate the mind from the body. Actually,
Right.
it's like one thing that needs to work together, right? So you cannot say, okay, when your body's okay, I'm okay, but if you're like if your brain or your mind doesn't feel right, then I got a problem to talk to you. Like that's, I
Yeah.
guess it goes in hand, and that's what people need to understand.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, your point is perfect right there with like, just because the body looks healthy and everything doesn't mean that the mind is. And like I know his was deemed a accidental, but Avicii comes to mind, right? Like
Mhm.
Avicii was this just happy go lucky,
Yeah.
everybody thought he was on top of the world, but he was obviously struggling with something internally
Mhm.
that caused some other pain points and issues. Obviously, Chester from Lincoln Park, things like that. And it's just to say that, while people that are dealing with some sort of mental health concern are often very good at masking because society has told us that we can't show those things or whatever. So just taking the extra time to be like, hey, how are you really doing right now? And listening to somebody's answer is going to
Mhm.
be huge. And I think, again, with this new album for you guys, touching on that a little bit hopefully opens the eyes of the fan base as well and goes, hey, we're not alone in this. Like, we all love this band, we all love what we're doing. Let's be there as a community together.
Yeah, we really hope that it makes a difference for some people that listen to the album, and especially that are thinking of the title of this album, There Is a Place for Me on Earth, because this counts for everybody, right? So there's a place for everybody on this earth. It's just sometimes it's hard to find it or to actually see that there is one, but it feels like the more you're trying to deal with that aspect, the more you can actually find that place and makes you feel comfortable again. And this is what I just hope. If it's only one person that gets the message that we put into that album, then I'm already more than okay with that, right? And the more people that realize what this message will actually means, the more I'm, the more I just see, okay, we did a good job, and not only like talking about music, just about the mental health issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite questions to ask as a band gets ready to release the new album is kind of a two-part question, but bands love and hate this question as well. What is the song that you think people are going to gravitate to, and what song do you want people to gravitate to?
So to say that, like, Jeff's opinion changes each week. So
yeah.
I'm excited for what he's telling me today.
I mean, we've rehearsed today, so when we wrote the record, I think Don't Let It Hurt Me was pretty cool, I think, because it's also very different for us to like go with this like more emotional sound, I guess. But when it comes to playing live, I just instantly feel consumed by you, because I don't know.
Okay.
It just has so much variety to it, and I think it has also, you know, it has those new metal parts, it has those heavy parts, it has some singing in it. It's just I think it's just a good track because it has something of everything in it, I think.
You want to know what I thought that your opinion would be? Like, because we just today we rehearsed the song Hybrid Anthem together with the feature artist.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
was just thinking, like, he said, oh yeah, we have rehearsed today, so it's a Hybrid Anthem now, because it was like so super cool to have Jared like with us in the rehearsal room and to do the feature live, because it gave the song so much energy. Before that, we just rehearsed the song with the backing tracks with his vocal. And we're just like, dude, that song's cool. But now that he was in our rehearsal room and just jumping all over the place, like, it felt like there is so much more energy going on. So when it comes to that, I would definitely go with Hybrid Anthem today. But my all-time favorite pick for that would ever be Don't Let It Hurt Me and There Is a Place for Me on Earth, because just those two songs are the ones that mean the most to me when it comes to lyrics. And no matter where the song like is my favorite by listening to it, they are the ones that always make me kind of sad or even cry when I listen to them. And so, like, for example, we finished like, we've been to Iceland 2 weeks before, and made a music video for Don't Let It Hurt Me that will be out on the 29th February.
Also next week, yeah.
Also next fucking Thursday, yeah. And on the last day, we just sat there with the videographer and basically just cut the whole video. And after finishing that, I just immediately started crying, because like the message that it actually transports was so well immersed into the video that I just thought, okay, this is truly my favorite song, just because it always makes me get back to those emotions. And so this is definitely my pick for that question.
Yeah, and that's great. I think that's one of those things where the beauty and power of music comes in, right? Because you've obviously poured so much of your personality and personal experience into that song, and for it to still be able to take you back to that point says a lot about just the power of what music can do. obviously with you guys doing rehearsals and stuff, let's not get in trouble with PR or the label, but what are the plans for 2024 as far as getting out to shows? What can fans kind of expect from you?
I mean, we definitely want to play all the songs live, and
All of them.
all of them. I mean, we've put so much thought and care into every song, I think, and it turned out super well. We're super happy with everything we did with this record, and we've had this thought a few weeks ago. Like we just put out 3 or 4 singles, and then the album comes out, and that's it. You play like shows, but I don't know. Maybe we think of doing something different and like releasing videos for other songs. I don't know. We'll see. We'll think about that.
But besides that, a lot of shows we'd love to play those songs as often as possible, because it's just like, I mean, I probably just can't compare it to the old songs, but if we play those songs in the rehearsal room right now, it feels like the new songs are so energetic to me. It feels like a whole different thing.
It's such a fresh breath affair for us, like playing these old songs time over time. I mean, I love them, but like just playing something different is also
I mean,
good feeling.
You can have pizza every day, right? So you
you can, but
yeah, okay, pizza is probably a worse example.
Yeah, you just change the toppings and it's fine.
But I guess you get the point, right? So
right.
But now that we got the new songs in the set list, I actually worship or appreciate the older songs a lot more again.
Yeah.
Just because there's like, you can vary with that a little bit better. Yeah. It's not like, okay, we got that many gigs that year and we are always going to play those songs no matter what, because we can't decide. We only got that album, right? And now
we can choose.
Now we can
choose our topics.
We even have to pick from the singles, right? There were 4 singles on the first album, and
I think
5 on the new one.
This, yeah.
So,
and I think you're at 5 now, yeah.
If you got a show with, I don't know, 30 minutes, you can pick 6 songs or whatever. Then you're just like, okay, which single do we cut out of this set? No, it's gonna be a hard time. And
which album track do we want?
Yeah. So there are probably gonna be some discussions about that. But for now, because our release show is on the 9th of March, and we decided to play a lot. I guess it's 11 songs now that we play on that, 11 or 12 songs that we're gonna play. And so we don't have that discussion yet, but there surely will be that discussion when we are gonna be limited by the slot for 20 to 30 minutes, whatever.
For sure. So something I think is interesting too is, as the discography grows, right? How often do you guys start to think about like, okay, like you said, we can only pick a certain number of songs off the old album. How much do you kind of reimagine some of those songs for a live set? Because now they don't have to be strictly what was on the album, right? So like, do you guys ever go through and be like, hey, let's expand that drop, right? Or this breakdown, we're going to make this a 2-minute breakdown just because we want to have fucking fun.
I mean, we already did that a few times, actually.
You just nailed it, man.
Yeah, we did that already. Like, we played the first shows after releasing the first album, and it was kind of good. But then I also started noticing, man, if we change this little thing up a little bit, it would be so much better. And like, even now,
for example, the breakdown of Disease that comes at the end is now double the length, just because we were just like, everybody was bouncing and doing shit, and then after a few seconds the breakdown just ended the song, and we were just like, no, we can't do that. Everybody's dancing and moshing, and so we have to make it a lot longer. The same thing was with Can You See Me? Because we really love that song, but at the end it feels like there's something missing, and then this is where we just randomly added a new breakdown that has never been in the song. But we play that live because it's just fun. But I definitely do think that, thinking of the next whatever 1 or 2 albums, there will definitely be some songs that we have to, or that we will probably rework a little to get some more I don't want to say spice, but to make them a little bit more the way that the new stuff feels like. I mean, there's
Right.
already some little gap between those two albums, but I do think that if we will be releasing the next two albums, this gap will definitely grow a lot more. And so therefore it's also good for us to make the some changes to the songs, probably because it makes it more interesting for us again.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
fun, just playing around.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, for fans that maybe don't play music, it helps keep them fresh too, right? Like at some point you're going to be, hopefully 20 years into your career with this band and going, I've played this song 9 million times. I'm fucking tired of it. Like we have to do something to make it fun again. So,
Mm.
adding these breakdowns. Plus I think too, like obviously the intent of music, like sure, you want to make a record so that it can exist and last and whatever, but your real intent is to perform music. So
Mm.
the live show is always going to be just a little bit better than the album.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Valid.
Yeah. Awesome. So kind of the last wrap up that I do is the kind of semi-traditional outro. Obviously I'll link all the socials and stuff, but where can people find you? What's the best way to interact? We've got the new album, There Is a Place for Me on Earth, dropping on March 1st. What do you want people to know? Where should they go? Things like that.
I mean,
So
just
in the
yeah.
first place, we appreciate everybody that will listen to that album. That's the most important thing to us, especially after talking about the message that much with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we love to encourage everyone that's living in Europe or wherever, because to come to our shows to actually perceive what we are performing live. So like our bass player is sick today, so he couldn't make it to the rehearsal, but he's the one that's always going crazy with bass flips and whatever. So it's a very unique experience on its own to get all of that stuff live. So if you ever come to Europe or even live in Europe, please feel free to join any show that we're playing, because we try to play a lot of shows this year.
Mm.
And other than that, yeah, just follow us on the social medias to get any access, blah blah blah, to any news. But we'd also be thankful for everybody that is on our shows that just come over and talk to us after the show, because we love to connect with people. And I guess that's anything to add.
Sums it up pretty well.
Awesome.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing kind of how the fan base explodes with this album, because like I said earlier, I think it's an evolution of sound. It's not a change. It's just expanding and it's growing into this thing where, like I mentioned earlier, there's post-hardcore elements, EDM elements, there's obviously metal and metalcore. So it's very inviting, I think, right now to have a lot of people come in and investigate what you guys have going on. So I'm stoked for you. Hopefully either I'll come over to the UK or you guys will jump on one of these crazy hybrid tour packages over here.
Yeah, we love that.
And yeah, we'll definitely link up soon. So thank you guys for everything you're doing and talking about, putting out message wise.
All right.
Man,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you so much.
Thank you very
Have a
much
good
for your
one.
time.
Thank you. You too.
Great Sunday.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye.